Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. Today's show is going to be great. We haven't talked about how to organize to scale your business. I think this is the most important topic because I know I deal with this battle on a daily basis, and really there's systems and processes that we're going to dive into today that I think will help your business, whether you're you own a service-based business or you're a real estate investor, you're a syndicator, you're a content creator. Our guest today, Stacy Gray, helps all these type of avatars grow and scale their business and by organizing your business and delegation. So welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's always good. I love having a podcast because, before you go live, you're always talking, you get to know the people. That's one reason I really love podcasting, is because it's not really to get the views, and obviously that helps that people know who I am and all this stuff, but you get to meet a lot of cool people. So thanks for joining us today. So, your company's called Organize to Scale. So you guys who are watching this in the future, you can go to organizetoscale.com. And why don't you kind of give us a little background on how you started this company, and who are your ideal kind of avatars that would need your service?
Yeah. So I actually started this pretty organically. We have, our family has several successful businesses, and my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and we wanted to create real time freedom in our lives pretty quickly. And so when she was diagnosed, we had the immediate need to streamline operations, get the right people in the right seats, and automate, delegate as much as we could so we could spend as much time with my mom as possible during her battle with cancer. And that's when we read Traction, which, with Monroe, and he runs the entrepreneurial operating system. We started integrating some of that. We read Scaling Up by Vern Harnish and started integrating some of that. And we created so much time freedom for ourselves that we spent the last 18 months of my mom's life with her. And that was really powerful because when we came back, we're visionaries, we were growth oriented, but during the process of streamlining the operations, the company grew, was more profitable. And so when we came back after she'd passed, we were like, let's not get back into the weeds again. Let's build another business. And so we started figuring out ways to do that throughout all of our family businesses. And most of our clients, if you will, were successful entrepreneurs, successful real estate investors, and successful real estate syndicators. And they started seeing what was happening in all of our businesses and started asking us to do it for them. And that was really how OTS came to be, because people were like, I want a business that runs, is streamlined, is profitable, and I am not stuck in the day-to-day nitty-gritty of it. I get to do the fun stuff of being the salesperson or brand ambassador or doing a podcast like you're doing, or just networking, events, talking to people. And so we made that transition ourselves, and that then OTS helps other visionary entrepreneurs, with, like you mentioned, within the industry, really make that shift.
That's really cool. So let's just say that we're going to talk about, I'll be in the hot seat today. Okay. So I have obviously a commercial lending company, but now I want to get more into the syndication world. I want to start raising capital. And can a newer platform come on, or do they have to be already kind of running for you to help them?
It depends how well financed they are and how much time they're willing to dedicate towards it. So from historical, we have had people join us who've never raised capital, haven't raised a penny. And then we have people who come who've raised maybe 10 million and now they're over 200 million. So it just depends where they're at. Both can work. The process is really the same. So we take people through a 3-step process. Step 1 is where we architect the business. So if you were to come saying, hey, I'm ready to start syndicating, I'm not really sure where to start. We've got this successful lending company. I've got great relationships, which is huge in the syndication business. And I want to make sure that when I start raising capital, I know what I'm doing. I'm putting it into deals that is going to create an ROI, because I want to make sure I'm taking care of my investors and my reputation, and I'm building a business that's really scalable. that avatar is great because they're well connected, they're already thinking ahead, they're mission minded, they're intentional with what it's wanting to build and do. And then we just architect the structure and the systems around that. And it's primarily based on where you want to be in your business. So if your goal is in 10 years not to be in the nitty-gritty day-to-day, handling all the things on the back end, and your goal is to do more podcasts and more speaking and be more out there, then everything you do or offer structurally is to support that. So step one is architecting it. You architect the business, which is basically the blueprint for how to run your business. And then that gets handed to a build team. Think of it in real estate like a construction general contractor, and they build the essential infrastructure for how to operate your business. And then once it's built, it gets handed off to an operate team, which is, think of it like your property manager and your tenants. They pull the levers and take care of it, and then you just get a check every month. And so we build our structures for businesses very similar to how a lot of your audience probably is used to real estate.
I like that. Yeah, my wheels were spinning when you were talking because I'm like, okay, because what I want to do is really, I'm not going to be the actual operator. I'd like to do fund of a fund where, I'm raising capital for syndicators that have an experienced track record, all that stuff. That to me is more appealing. But it's interesting how you architect the structure, right? Because you have to start with the end in mind too. And I think a lot of people aren't good at I for example, my strengths are I have the idea and I can kind of lay it out on the vision board, on the whiteboard, right? But I'm not the person that can go and say, okay, I'm not the integrator. I can never do that. Okay, this is what we're going to do here, right? It sounds like you have this 3-step process where I could go in and I could help on the visionary side, but here, this is how you're actually going to achieve it. Here's step 2, here's step 3. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of businesses other than syndicators have you been working with that are interesting to you?
It's primarily in the real estate space. So it started off with content creators who were like the real estate guys. We run the real estate guys. And then that went to capital raisers, syndicators, but most of the syndicators are vertically integrated. So they may have a property management company, a development company, a lending company. They have a lot of other insurance companies. And so they have all of these relationships, all of these connections, all this visibility into where capital may potentially need to be placed for tax benefits and so forth. And so it's all in the real estate arena primarily, but we have plans to expand outside of real estate as well. But it's already been very helpful just in the space we're in.
So when somebody comes to you, they're already doing, they've done 2 syndications, they want to grow, right? That's probably a lot of times, hey, we want to grow. Are you helping them with their brand identity, their websites? Are you helping them look the part, as well as kind of the back end of hooking up CRMs and newsletters and walk me through how give me an example. You don't have to name names of a syndicator, but where they came to you, this $10 million syndicator that went to 100 or 200 million. What was that process? What did that look like?
Yeah. So they sometimes they don't even have a business name. They just have this idea that they want to start a syndication business. They want to raise capital. They've been successful doing it for themselves as a real estate investor. Their friends and family and network are saying, hey, I want to give you money. Maybe they even already raised some capital and didn't know that it was even called syndication and they did it illegally. Many people have that tendency. They don't even know. So if you guys did it or you did it, that's totally normal. It happens. And then they start realizing, oh, I can do this at a bigger scale. I'm starting to get referrals and I need to have structure in order to handle it. And so we think of it as like a hub and spoke. So the hub of your business is your capital raising business. And then you may do multifamily, you may do ATM machines, you may do carbon capture, you may do a portfolio of single family homes or short-term rentals. And so your deals are all off of your hub. And we focus primarily on the hub, which is your relationships with your investors. And that is a very much a trust building brand because people have worked really hard to generate the wealth that they have. and they want to place it with something that they can preserve and grow their wealth while getting tax savings. And so we craft messages in communication, in branding and infrastructure to help the syndicators do that. So that includes everything from investor portal, website, document management and storage, email campaigns, marketing, lead funnels, booking people on third-party podcasts and appearances so they can generate some relationships. There's some legality with it. So if you're taking accredited investors or not accredited investors, there's things you can and cannot do. So over time, we've developed all of the standard operating procedures to support those nuances that syndicators have to deal with. That is different than some of the other service-based industries that aren't as regulated.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love it. I'm like, I always come up with ideas, and most of them are around my business. So I look at my hub as my podcast, right? And then I have my spokes that go out and the different ventures and stuff. Because really, my hub now, originally the hub's like the website, but now it's like the podcast because I'm the kind of that's my my rim, right? And then I have all these spokes that go out. That makes sense because I've talked about that, and it's kind of like easy to understand, like how to get all this. Yeah, when you were talking, I was just thinking because, so I do a lot of SBA financing, and a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey, they find these really good businesses that are cash flowing. Mom and pop owned it, for 30 years, and they might be a little bit short on their equity, and so. Right now, I'm in the process of starting a business that actually helps put the equity, that 10 or 15% equity injection into these mom and pop owned businesses for this new operator to come in and do it. So it's interesting because I'm trying to create a model around it, right? Because this isn't like it's not a syndication. It's just really, it's interesting to like kind of go through the process and really you can help somebody like me go through this process and kind of brand it and build a system. And eventually the system will run without me in the system, which is the ultimate goal.
Yeah. I think there's two parts of getting there. I think you are describing yourself as the visionary. And the visionary is the person who can see the front of the puzzle box completely done in color, and they think it looks beautiful and they think it should happen tomorrow. And then you take that box and you dump out all the pieces and you have all the pieces all over, and the visionary checks out. They're like, I don't have no interest in figuring out what piece goes where and how it goes, or I just want the puzzle box built, or I want the puzzle built and it looking beautiful. And the integrator is the person who comes in and says, okay, these are the corners, this is the scope and sequence, this is how much resources we're going to need in terms of human resources and capital, and what the process is going to be to get there. And then the growth of it is for the system to be built. So brick by brick, you're building the infrastructure, you're putting the right people in the right seats. But the visionary also has to go through their own evolution because they have to work on patience a little bit because they want it done yesterday. But they also have to grow and elevate to a level that can generate the revenue in terms of leads and sales to support the efforts that need to happen operationally to streamline it. So it's really a synergistic co-pilot type of relationship that takes place. And then the visionary really needs to feel confident and trust that their vision was articulated in a very clear way. So what is built under the hood really reflects the front of the puzzle box and not the interpretation of maybe what the integrator heard.
Yeah, that's strong.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break. Are you looking for funding? Are you getting frustrated trying to find a lender? Visit investorfinancingpodcast.com and click the Get Funding button. Complete the simple form and schedule a free phone consultation with one of our placement specialists. We have a proprietary directory of funding partners that can help you get the funding you need. It's fast and easy to explore the options available for your specific needs. Don't wait. Visit investorfinancingpodcast.com and get connected.
How did you develop these skills to start your business? I mean, I know it was out of necessity when your mom was ill. And we have a lot of cancer in my family too. My mom's had cancer 3 times. So it's sad. Luckily right now my mom doesn't have any cancer, but it's been like since I was 16, I remember, breast cancer. I called it, a lot of cancer in my family, and it's sad. So like when people, say that, one of my good friends I talked to yesterday, she's in her 70s, early 70s now, but she's got stage 4 cancer. And it's like, she was talking to me yesterday, and I'm like, she's like, I told my doctor, I need another 8 years at least, make it to 80, I'm like, and it's sad. It's so sad because when you have to live with that and like, but anyway, so just want to put that note in there that,
Sorry, it's never easy. And it always comes to unexpected times, and it feels like a lot of pressure, and it creates so much uncertainty. You have no idea what's going to happen the next day. Especially with stage 4, and that's what my mother had. She had stage 4. And so you're in and out of hospitals. It's in remission. Oh, it's not in remission. So just the emotional roller coaster of it all. It's a lot to carry. So I empathize a lot with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I've had my aunt die from cancer. It's like, I have a lot of cancer in my family. My mom keeps on telling me, oh, you got to get the where they test your genes.
Yeah.
Especially because I might have children someday, even though I'm probably getting old. I'm 45, so I got to have children sooner. But anyways, she wants me to do the gene testing and all this stuff. So but let's talk about, like the skills. Like this is such an interesting, this is such a needed business that you started that like I know as like an entrepreneur myself, like I've always dealt with the struggle, and I really get frustrated with it because it's such a struggle for so many entrepreneurs to get out of their own way and like understand that like the younger entrepreneurs that have more of a tech background, they think bigger, right? They just think, hey, put these pieces in. But some of us that are in our, late 30s, 40s, we think that we're kind of where you get stuck because we think we have to be in the trenches all the time, right? And like what you've done is you created a whole system. It's like you really like traction like on steroids, really. I mean, because like I can read that book and like I could take away nuggets, but what you've done is put a whole system for people to do this, which is cool. Like who wouldn't want to do this? I mean, this is like what I think and the thing is these capital raisers, if done well, they are making millions and millions of dollars, right? So like it's not like peanuts that they're making. I talk to syndicators that on the day they close on a purchase, they make $1 million, from their fees and front end. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like, so if you do this and treat it like a business and really have the end in mind, and that's really what you help these people do.
Yes. You think of systems in partnering with somebody like OTS or somebody who can help you put the systems in as an investment, especially for syndicators, because you can put that into your deal within your promote fee, within your management fees, and the syndications, especially if you're structuring them well and you're doing good deals, it is very, very, very lucrative. So the little bit that the investment is for putting systems in place pays you 10x, 100x, but it magnifies it. And going back to the skills and how I even kind of got into this, I graduated high school at 16 years old, and my father didn't want me to go off to college. So he said, come work with me for 2 years, and if at 18 years old you want to go to college, you can go to college. And which is so weird thinking back. Like so many people say, go to school, get a good education, get a degree, get a job. And he was like, don't do that. So I started working with him, answering the phones, and he's co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio show. And we did events and seminars and taught people how to invest in real estate. Now our focus is more teaching people how to raise capital and syndicate. We still have a big focus on helping investors as well. But I started answering the phones, processing registrations for the different events that we were doing. And about a month in, 2 months in, I told him, I don't want to answer phones anymore. This is not fun. I don't enjoy this. And he said, okay, you don't have to, and handed me a copy of E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And he said, read this, and then you have to hire and train your replacement. So I read it, and then I created all of these manuals and handbooks and standard operating procedures and checklists, and hired the person who was going to replace me and train them. And then I realized, oh, I have to manage this person. And I don't know how to do that. I was 16, 17 years old. So then I started reading all the books about leadership and management and culture. And so Stephen Covey, Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, all of those books. This is not even an eighth of my library behind me. And just started reading all of them. And we grew the real estate guys and went through the kind of 2007, 2008, which was a hard, challenging time. Then I went and started a few other businesses. I did a turnkey rental business. And then that's when my mom was diagnosed, and my dad said, hey, can you come run all of our businesses again? And that's when I stepped in and did all of the system structures, people, and the rest of the story I explained earlier. But that's kind of how I didn't go to college. I don't have an MBA, nothing. It's all just real world building businesses.
I didn't go to college either.
Yeah.
I was a terrible student. I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And I always kind of never opened books, and I wasn't interested. And then all of a sudden I got into real estate at 20 years old or so. And then I became very passionate. I always tell people I've taken more courses, more online courses. Like I've done, like the thing about me, which I appreciate now, is that I'm a lifetime learner, a growth mindset, right? Like you could throw everything out the door. Like I have this here, and like, so, I mean, could I be a better writer? Could I do a lot of stuff? But now I got ChatGPT, so it doesn't matter. And that's cool. Then
so we're all going to sound the same now.
Yeah. You know, when I was doing a little bit of research before the show, I ended up listening to a podcast that your dad was just on lifestyle, Justin something, I can't think of his name. The Lifestyle Entrepreneur podcast or something. Okay. And I didn't know much about your dad, but I'm going to go back because I listened to about 10 minutes or watched 10 minutes of it on YouTube. And your dad's got a really cool story. So first of all, it's pretty cool to have a dad that was such an entrepreneur. I think that would be really cool. Like my dad wasn't, not to say that, anyways, it might have helped me, it might have not helped me, but I think it would be cool to have a dad that was very resourceful, because he, you know, that first thing he made you do where you were like reading the E-Myth, and like those really helped you develop. I mean, I always think if I have children, that's what I want to instill in the kids, like in the legacy. I think it's so like, I think it's like parents' duty to help their children like that. And I that's what I would love. Like if I look back, I love my dad, but if he was a little bit more entrepreneurial and like I had that, it would have just been amazing. I wouldn't trade my dad for the world, but knowing what I know now, like, having your children be self-sufficient, right? And teaching them like these skills and these like the E-Myth and like the whole like employee mindset set of, people that think they have to go work a 9-to-5 and like they're destined to do that. But that like saddens me that, you know, when I still shop at Walmart, when I go to Walmart and I see these 80-year-old bag checkers, yeah, they might be happy, but a lot of them probably don't want to work at Walmart. It was like they didn't have the right planning. Mm-hmm. And I think all of this stuff, right, if you have these skill sets, it's so important. So it's cool to see how that dynamic, you know, helped you, and then what you've been able to do with it, right? Like, because now it's like your dad's probably going, what the heck? I created this monster, right, of just unbelievable skills, and so he must be so happy with what you're doing. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it goes back even further than my father. So my grandfather came over from the Philippines. So I'm Filipino, Spanish, and Italian. And my grandfather came over from the Philippines when he was 14 years old. And he built a company to take public. And so he really had entrepreneurialism in his blood. And my great-grandfather, which was my grandfather's father in the Philippines, was a guerrilla fighter in the war. And they were called freedom fighters. And he was a radio person that ran up to the top of the hill to get signals to cue everybody. And so he passed on kind of that freedom mindset into his son. And when I asked my grandfather, why did he move from the Philippines to the U.S.? And he said because he wanted to be in the land of his heroes, and how the U.S. had protected them and created freedom for them, and how he wanted to be closer to them. And then he felt it his duty to generate some value in the US, which is why he built the company. And my father saw that and watched him do that, and then wanted to start his own business and asked his father to write his business plan for him. And my grandfather told him, no, I'm not writing your business plan for you, because if I write it for you, it's my business. You have to write your own business plan, because the thought process of figuring it out is so critical. And so my father wrote the business plan. You can see what he's done in his career with the real estate guys and the development projects we've had and all of that. And so it really is a ripple effect of a mindset that leaves a legacy. So passing on generational wealth really isn't just about money. It's also about mindset. And that's what you're saying as well, as what you want to pass on to your kids is the mindset of entrepreneurialism, because people could take it away from you. But if you have grit and resilience and resourcefulness and critical thinking and a good network, you're going to still thrive no matter what happens economically or globally.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so true. I mean, I recently finally, for the first time in my life, hired a business coach. And really, I almost consider them a therapist. He's like my therapist, and like this guy is a really cool coach, and he's an older gentleman now, but so one of the guys in GoBundance, that group I was telling you about earlier, I had him on my podcast, and I'm like, I really need to hire a coach, and he's like, hey, talk to this guy, and then the next minute he's sending an email, and so I hired Phil, and Phil is like, it's really cool to like. It's so cool to just constantly level up, like where I have these limiting beliefs, right? And it's
everybody does. Everyone does.
Yeah, we're like always working on them, and it's like and it's funny, like I have Fathom, and it transcribes these conversations, and I didn't realize like that it was a video, and I went back because my coach Phil said something really cool. I went back and I didn't know it was videoing, and I watched it, and I was like, man, that's so cool. But yeah, I think it's just like these constant steps of improvement, right? It's really not like the money is important. Don't get me wrong. We all need money to live the lifestyle and have the freedom. But I think what I've found is really about being fulfilled with what you do with your career, right? You want to be fired up. Like yesterday, I was kind of having a bad day. And I had to kind of reverse engineer. Like it's just really about like what really stimulates you and motivates you to like do what you do, right? Because you can just get to a certain cash flow or number, and like because it's often weird when you see these like highly successful people and they never stop. It's like they're not really doing it for the money anymore. They love the business of it, right? Like I'm sure like your dad like could probably go sit on an island somewhere if he wanted to, but he's not, because he likes what he does. I think that's so powerful, and it sounds like you love what you do too. So
yeah, we call that mission-minded, not money-minded. And you need money, so to think that you don't need money is an illusion. But there are ways to generate wealth, and then also do it in parallel to something that is meaningful and impactful to society. And I'm very passionate about what I do. And when things get tough, like you were saying yesterday, knowing your why you're doing something is the thing, and who you're serving. Those two things together carry you through, because money is never enough unless you're like a really greedy bastard. It's not enough to carry you through some of the storms that you're going to face as you build and scale your business. You need to have something that is pulling your heart and your soul at a deeper level. And for me, it is really restoring the conversations at dinner tables. So going back to this whole kid thing, when the thing that I loved about growing up in my home is our dinner table conversations were about supply and demand. I can think of so many times when he would hold up a water bottle and say, okay, there's 6 of us, and there's only one of this. How much is it going to go for? And he would teach us supply and demand, and that was so critical. But now we have so many people who are trapped in their businesses, or both parents are outside of the home working, that those dinner table conversations aren't happening. And that's having an impact on our future generations and the world that we're creating. And so by organizing our businesses to scale and organizing our lives to scale, we're able to restore a lot of that sanity within the family dynamics that creates those really, really important, impactful conversations to all the little minds looking up to us for guidance on where we're going. And that matters. So when I think of who I'm serving and when things get hard, it's like that 4-year-old sitting at that visionary's table and their dad's not there. That matters to somebody. That matters really on a deep level in that spouse who's maybe wondering, like, I feel like I'm doing this all by myself. When you're able to create systems and structures that still allow both things to exist and excel, that is so fulfilling and meaningful for me, but it's life-changing for the visionaries and entrepreneurs who have been trapped.
Yeah, that's powerful. Because yesterday I was talking I have my coaching sessions on Monday, and I was a little frustrated. I was like telling Phil, I was like, I'm so routine. I'm very disciplined. So it's like always the same motion. Like I'm in my home office right now. Sit in my home office. It's like a lot of the times being disciplined, yeah, you're going to get like long term, you're always going to grow. Like if you always go to the gym, you're going to be you're going to stay in shape. But I think like for me, it was almost breaking the systems, right? To learn like, hey, it's not really about you sitting in front of your desk, sending emails. It's really about like the high level thoughts that actually the systems that make your business run without you there. And that's exactly what you do for people, which is really cool because that's like the most important thing. It's like you can have the best idea in the world, and if you're still in the trenches, I mean, sure, ultimately, can you create wealth? And yes, but like you're more likely to grow quicker and enjoy your time by putting these systems organize the scale. So it all makes sense. I love what you're doing. Where can people follow you? And I know you have different reports and things anybody who's intrigued by what you do, I'm sure everybody's probably like, this is a good conversation. Like, yeah, this is what I need for my business because, I mean, if they take their business seriously, right? If you're a capital raiser and you had a little bit of success so far, and now we're going into a different environment too. You got to like, it might've been a little bit easier 2 years ago to raise capital for these Austin multifamily projects. But right now with the economy and these banks collapsing, this is when you really got to dive deep and double down. And this is when this is like the time, the make or break you time. Like if you have some success, now is the time that either you got to put your foot on the gas or you're probably going to not be in business anymore. And I think you have a service that might help them.
I was just at a syndication seminar with Tom Wheelwright and Ken McElroy, who are Rich Dad Advisors, and Ken McElroy's I think $1 billion syndicator now, more than that. And he was saying that he's not really buying much right now because of what's happening in the market. But he said what he is doubling down on is his operational efficiencies and his systems and his structures, because he wants to make sure everything is dialed in tight and ready to go when in a 6, 12, 18, 24 months, deals start coming on the market, that he is ready to pull the trigger and move quickly. And then Tom Willard was explaining, to move from the E&S side to the BNI side, you need systems. And so it's really the perfect time when you really feel like you're sitting on the sidelines as a capital raiser to focus on your infrastructure and focus on building your brand right now, because then you're in a position to take advantage of everything that's going to be coming available that maybe you missed in 2008, 2009, or maybe you missed in the previous debt cycle. So it's really important. So if it's helpful to your audience, I created a free report and a free webinar about the 3-step process and how we organize businesses to scale. So they can send an email to scale@organizedtoscale.com. And you can also find everything on organizedtoscale.com as well.
Awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, I think right now it's about, I look at like what you should be doing. What Tom McElroy was saying is so true. Like right now might not be, there's always deals, but like right now you should be doubling down, getting more investors, more people that know your name, right? Because when there's those opportunities that come, you have the capital available to pull the trigger, as you were saying. And I'm just thinking of like a Brandon Turner, for example. Like, well, one, he got out of the biggest, but like he was able to leave bigger pockets, and because he was now in front of everybody, right? So we might not all be Brandon Turners that have that get on bigger pockets and bigger pockets becomes, but just think about that for you is like, how can you have your own, be a media agency? Because essentially we're all media agencies in one way or the other. We have to get our name out there. We have to do it. And the good thing is you who is watching that right here now, you don't have to do it. You can get the right people on your team to help.
Yeah.
That's the key of this conversation. Stacy, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I love doing this because it fires me up, and now I'm excited for the rest of the day.
Awesome. I enjoyed chatting with you, and congrats on all your success that you've had so far.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And everybody go to organizedtoscale.com if you enjoyed this conversation to learn more. I think this is extremely important for you. So you should go out and do that right now. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Hey guys, Beau Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.